Happy Friday, everybody, and welcome back to your favorite and hottest podcast. It is the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast with Big Flip Livingstone and your boy, Mr. Steele Roden. On today's episode, there is everything you need to know about what's going on in the NHL, especially in the Rangers, Hurricanes, Oilers, Flames series. There is a lot of wild hockey going on, especially out west for the Battle of Alberta. We will be breaking it all down on today's episode. Also feeding you our DFS top targets, locks of the night, and everything you need to know to pad that pocketbook, baby. Let's ride.
You're Locked On Fantasy Hockey, your daily podcast on fantasy hockey. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Friday, everybody. It is the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast with Steele Roden and Big Flip Livingstone. Thank you for making us your first listen every single day. You know where to find us across all platforms you find your favorite and hottest content. Apple Music, Spotify, and YouTube. We are dropping hot and fresh episodes every single day, Monday to Friday, so make sure you are hammering the subscribe and follow button. Steele and I appreciate all that love. So make sure you go and do it right now. Don't slip. Go and do it right now. Hit the subscribe button. I see you. Much love. And on today's episode, people, hey, it's Friday and we are rolling with the second round. Steele, Rangers, Hurricanes, Oilers, Flames. It's going to be a rotating night of these games every other night, obviously. So Friday serves up those two series. Lots to talk about there, Steele. Lots to talk about in terms of why don't we start with the game one in both of those series. I don't know which series you'd like to take first, but honestly, two very different game ones, two very different outcomes. I'm willing to go either way, my friend. This is the time of year that really hockey heads, gambling degenerates, this is our time. So take it away, my friend, because Rangers, Hurricanes, Oilers, Flames, lots to talk about either way.
Yeah, I think we should start with the New York Rangers, Carolina Hurricanes, just because there's a lot to digest from the Calgary Flames and Edmonton Oilers game one matchup. That game against that series with game one for Rangers and Hurricanes was absolutely fantastic. I think the goalies stole the show there, and I think this really showcases the X factors that we were talking about, because Antti Raanta definitely stood on his head for the Carolina Hurricanes. Made a couple of huge saves in the first period as well, late in the second, which really gave his team, late in the third to come back with under 3 minutes to go and tie up the game, and then eventually win it in overtime. Which for me, that overtime goal was just a little fluky. It deflects off Ryan Lindgren in front of Shesterkin and just squeaks under his arm. But a win's a win. So game one goes to Carolina Hurricanes. We'll definitely get, we'll see what happens for game two, where Flip and I are at for what might happen for game two with these two teams. But that first game for me, it was definitely great, but the DFS selections and the big time bets definitely did not hit.
They did not hit, and that's a rarity, because I want to give us some credit, because if the bets don't hit, the DFS targets usually do, or vice versa, or both together. And if you've been riding with us since the start of the reboot of this show, you will know that that's a fact. And I'm not just gassing up or pumping tires here, Steele. And at the end of the day, that's going to happen. But we're back out here taking it on the chin and showing up. And that's what matters in this world of content and media and journalism. And that's all that matters. Is this series is far from over.
Yeah.
One goal, one bounce. The New York Rangers, a lot of shoulda, coulda, wouldas for the New York Rangers, right? A couple of missed open nets. And at the end of the day, though, one goal is not going to cut it. And we talked about those big guns needing to continue that momentum. And we fully called on all of them too. Panarin, Kreider, Zibanejad, they were basically invisible. And if not for Shesterkin, that number could have been more crooked. Also, Carolina Hurricanes remain undefeated at home this playoffs. Maybe that's why the odd on the Rangers was a little juicier for me yesterday. That tanked me in. That's okay, Steele. We're back at it. Sebastian Aho answers the bell as well, Steele, with a big-time goal.
Yeah.
I don't know where you think the rest of this series goes. Is this an indication of more to come, or are we in for a real 7-game battle? Because I think it's the latter.
Well, I still have the Rangers in 6, and I think that's how it goes. This game just proves to us that the first round matchup with the Hurricanes and Bruins, we know, obviously it went to 7 games, but I had the Hurricanes winning this pretty much the entire way. I didn't lose faith whatsoever. And you're right, they've won every single game at home, and having that home ice advantage really helps going against the New York Rangers. But I think this is far from over. I think every single game is going to be a 1 or 2 goal game. I don't think there's going to be any blowouts. We're going to see a lot of tight physicality in this series. And I know a lot of people out there said that this is probably the least series that they want to watch out of all 4, but every single series has intensity and has the fire there. And this might be the least series that you want to watch, but it's still a fantastic series. I think I still have the Rangers in 6, but every single game is going to be as close as that game 1 we just saw.
There's also something to take away from everything that you just said, because you know me, I'm always thinking bets. And what did you just say? Boring, tight, close games. What does that mean? Under, baby, under. Look to the under in this series. That's a tease for big time bets. But seriously, take a look at it. 28 shots for the Rangers, 26 shots for the Hurricanes. That's a low number for both of these teams who we know have ton of offensive talent up front. If this continues like this, Steele, I'd be comfortable doing one of those things with this series where laying the under in almost every single game, I think might make you money more often than not. Anyway, lots of hockey left to be played. Let's see what unfolds with this, because like you said, I'm still tipping it in the favor of the Rangers, but this pod's a little Rangers bias, but we're sticking with it, right? We called them out from the jump, from the first episode you and I did together, so we're going to hold our hats on the New York Rangers, and I'm with you. I think that's just a couple of bad bounces. That's easily the New York Rangers game. Why don't we talk about the Edmonton Oilers and Calgary Flames? Because oh my goodness, we were expecting this. I think we both said this is the series we want to watch. And even if you're a fan of croquet and not hockey, tuning into that one last night had a little bit of everything. And oh my goodness, are we in store for, I think, a very, very wild, wild series out west.
Yeah, and again, I think I really have to do a good job highlighting the X factors that we talked about the other day. And finally, Matthew Tkachuk, being an X factor in this series in round 2, gets a hat trick, finally gets on the score sheet. That's what the Calgary Flames really needed. And he was smart the entire game. So if he can continue to play like that this entire series, the Flames are winning this. I think both of us have the Flames in 7, I believe. You might have them in 6.
Yeah, Flames 6 or 7.
6 or 7, but we both have the Flames winning this series. And if Matthew Tkachuk can play that way, then this is the Flames series to lose. I think they have a really good shot at making the Stanley Cup Finals and being one of the, being the first Canadian team in over a decade to finally get there. It's honestly, actually, I guess the Montreal Canadiens just lost the other year, but
that one doesn't
count. the second Canadian team
that
in a very
one doesn't
long
count.
Time.
Asterisk on that one.
But also, I said this so many times all season long. Like, how does your team go out and score 6 goals and you still lose the game? I've said this all season long. Mike Smith and Mikko Koskinen are not the guys you want to have in the crease, especially in the postseason. They could get by in round 1. But you are not getting by with those 2 guys in round 2, especially up against the top team in the Calgary Flames. So for me, there's a lot to digest there. Matthew Tkachuk finally stepping up. Mikko Koskinen and Mike Smith just doing an absolute terrible job in the crease. More Mike Smith because he let 3 goals in on 7 shots or something like that. He was absolutely terrible to start the game. And like it's honestly just sad because again, it's Connor McDavid getting kicked out of the playoffs, out of the second round, and it's gonna hurt him.
Hey. It's game 1, but I hear your point wholeheartedly. And at the end of the day, cuckoo Mike Smith, we know this, there he goes, rearing his ugly head right at one of the most pivotal games of the season. I said that, and thank you for showing love to the X factors that we did highlight. We talked about Tkachuk, but we also talked about the Calgary Flames announcing themselves as the team to beat in this series. They squeaked one out against Dallas. Let's be honest here. And give the Dallas Stars credit, which we have. They squeaked one out. But I also, looking at this lineup, Steele, top to bottom, they remind me a lot of the Florida Panthers. Except maybe give the edge in goal to Jakob Markstrom, who's had such a good season. But the balanced lineups, the scoring, the D lines, lot to be reminiscent of for both teams there. But hey, what a juicy, juicy series this is going to be. And we'll continue to maybe talk about it around the break. But what is coming up around the break for sure? DFS targets, our big time bets, which is the locks of the night. That's what we're doing right now because it's playoff season, baby. But it's the season for Built Bars, and we are talking about brownie batter puffs. I love brownies, but you know what I love more? Brownie batter. Steele, this is some new fire from Built. Sometimes I eat half of the batter while I'm making brownies, but imagine if you could just lick the brownie spatula clean and get your protein in. Well, you are in luck, my friends. Built is coming out with that hot new. It is the brownie batter puff. You heard me right. The puff takes protein bars to a whole new level, and they are available right now on Built.com. Have you tried the Built Puffs yet? I don't know what you're waiting on, but you are slipping. Puffs are covered in 100% chocolate, and now they're covered in marshmallow, delicious marshmallow flavor. Still healthy. 140 calories, 17 grams of protein, and only 7 grams of sugar for the brownie batter puffs. The brownie batter puffs will completely change your snacking game. No need to pinch yourself. This is real. Go to Built.com. Hit up the brownie batter puffs right now. Use Locked On 15 as your promo code and get 15% off your order.
Thank you for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every day. But for your next listen, you have to check out the Locked On Now podcast. Nightly recaps of every NHL game with analysis from our local experts. It's free and available wherever you get your podcasts, just like this podcast right here. So like Flip said off the top of this episode, hit the subscribe button, hit the follow button, and you'll get all the latest episodes, all the content, all the big time bets and DFS selections of the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. And we appreciate all the love and support out there. So thank you so much for tuning in. And yeah, let's kind of wrap up this first game of the Calgary Flames Edmonton Oilers series. What an absolute difference if the Calgary Flames went from round one against the Dallas Stars to round two against the Edmonton Oilers. I haven't done the math yet, but there was 15 goals in game one. I swear that entire series against the Dallas Stars, that's how many goals was that entire series. Because it went from a low-scoring series against the Dallas Stars. Maybe more. Like 15 goals in game one is absolutely is absurd.
It is absurd, and I think that's some people will say, maybe lean to take a look at both these teams waking up and really tightening up defensively. I think we're in store for more wild action. These two teams clearly hate each other. And there's something to be said, though, Steele, about the inability of the Edmonton Oilers to form any sort of anything on the defensive end, especially when Mike Smith is giving up goals like that. Mikko Koskinen is a career backup. Mike Smith has not had a good track record. This is now the second round of the playoffs, and you're looking at a team that can realistically roll 3 pretty solid lines. And now you're looking at a couple of these moves by Brad Treliving at the deadline. That third line is starting to make some difference, Steele. Dylan Dubé, Calle Yarncroc, and Tyler Toffoli are getting some really great matchups against a weak third and fourth line on the Edmonton Oilers. Factor in Mike Smith, factor in the weak blue line. I don't need to say much more here. You don't need to be a hockey genius, Steele, to understand what I'm saying, I don't think.
No, it's very clear. It's very clear cut and day that, look, we both have the Flames winning this series. And I think once this series is finally finished and wrapped up, we're going to see a very, very different Edmonton Oilers team next year. I honestly, if they were smart, they don't bring back either Mike Smith or Mikko Koskinen. I know Koskinen is on his last year of his contract moving forward. Even then, get rid of them. They are terrible. You can get away with it in the regular season because of how great Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, and even when Evander came in at that time, since they got him in the regular season, he was even fantastic. You can get away with that in the regular season. You can't get away with it in the postseason. It's just a different game. Everything is so much different, and that's the one problem. I mean, I know they have a lot of problems actually, but the one big problem that will make a big difference is their goaltending.
Yeah, well, easier said than done. Like let's give some honest statements. That's easier said than done, but 100%. And Chiarelli really handcuffed this team with some bad signings before they let him go. Koskinen being one of them on a half a good season, giving that guy a multi-year contract. When you see those kinds of moves, it's like, sign me up for that job because I'm pretty sure I could do a better one. Anyway, that's not what we're here to do. We're keeping these episodes sweet and short, people, because DFS and big time bets are simple right now. You know what I'm saying? So, Steele, let's get into it. Where are you looking? Short and sweet, baby. Hit me with the power moves.
Well, I think we have to continue with the topic of conversation we're already on right now, the Calgary Flames and Edmonton Oilers for DFS selections. And you made a good point that, some people might think that, because of how game one was, that in game two, it might get tightened a little bit, might be a little bit better defensively. And we know that there's going to look, the Edmonton Oilers are just terrible defensively. They don't have a good defenseman besides Darnell Nurse. And with Mike Smith and Mikko Koskinen, the way they just played, there's going to be some high-scoring games, and I think that continues into game two. So realistically, you could look at both teams here because there's going to be a ton of scoring. So for your main focus, this game right here, Edmonton Oilers and Calgary Flames, whether you want to go with the top guys in Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl for the Oilers, or the
4
top
points
guys
for McDavid in the loss, by the way.
Yeah, look, they're still getting points. So it doesn't matter if that team loses, as long as they're getting points, you're getting points and you're getting the win. So I think whether you want to go with the Calgary Flames or Edmonton Oilers top guys, that is the smart move. And then fill the rest of your roster out from that New York Rangers, Carolina Hurricanes game. Because to be honest, that young line that Gerard Gallant has going right now has been absolutely fantastic. Alexis Lafreniere, Philip Hedl, and Capo. So that young line for the Rangers, I think that would be great to kind of fill out your bottom roster for DFS selections. I think all those guys are going to be under $4,000, maybe even $3,000, but they've been playing absolutely fantastic. I think the main focus definitely has to be the top guys on either the Edmonton Oilers or the Calgary Flames.
I'm glad that you mentioned Philip Hedl because I mentioned it to you off air. And, this is a 21st overall draft pick. And I understand that the back end of the draft but that was a strong draft. And that's a player who hasn't panned out. And now all of a sudden he's finding his confidence. These are the kinds of things, Steele, that win teams their playoff series. And what happened, though? The top guys let the Rangers down because when you have those performances from your bottom six and you get nothing from the top six, it's a real shame because what would that number have looked like for the New York Rangers last night? Different. Anyway, I'm not getting heated because I lost a bunch of money on it. Anyway, bring me back, pal. Where else are you looking? Or is that it? Let's go to big time bets.
Yeah, that pretty much covers for DFS selections. Only 2 games on the night. I think that, again, the main focus has to be the top lines for either the Oilers or Calgary Flames, and then fill out the rest of your DFS selections with the Rangers or even the Hurricanes bottom 6 forwards. I'm looking towards that third line of the Rangers because I thought they were absolutely fantastic game one, as well as even in the late rounds against the Penguins in the first series. So that's where I'm looking at. Let's move over to big time bets, but where you should place those bets is betonline.net. They continue to be the number one source for all your betting needs and sports info. Find all the latest odds, news, and sports developments, including this year's NBA playoffs, Major League Baseball seasons, fights, even next season's NFL future. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sport wagering information, from live betting to playoffs, esports, and a lot more. So you got to head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and actions. BetOnline, where the game starts. Thank you for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every day. Don't forget, we are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, which also includes YouTube. So if you want to see Flip and my beautiful face, hit the subscribe button and you'll get the latest episodes of the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast each and every day, Monday through Friday. And thank you so much for all the love and support out there. Let's get over to big time bets right now. 2 games on the schedule. It's every single night for round 2.
Yep.
And I actually have multiple bets here. I know we're doing the lock of the night, but I'm feeling a little groovy, a little confidence going, even though the Rangers lost me a big bet on Wednesday. But we're going to continue that going into Friday.
Let's hear it.
I'll start off with the first bet. I'm going back to the Rangers on the money line. I think the Hurricanes finally take their first loss at home. And I thought the Rangers were more deserving of that win in game 1. I thought they out-battled the Hurricanes for the first 2 periods. The Hurricanes really did come back in the third and gave it to the Rangers. But overall, I thought the Rangers played really well. I thought they deserved that win. Unfortunately for them, it didn't go that way. But I think in game 2, they steal it and tie the series at 1-1.
Look, the track record of the Carolina Hurricanes is clear, but everything you said is almost more clear because I agree. They were more deserving and they missed out on those chances. Credit due to Carolina. That should have been the Rangers' win. That's okay. We're moving on. I'm not going to actually take a bet in that game in terms of the winner steal. I mentioned, though, what I think about the trends in terms of how we saw that game transpire. I'm going to take the under in the Carolina-New York Rangers game because I could easily see this one being a 3-2, maybe even a 3-1 empty net final for the New York Rangers or even the Carolina Hurricanes. To be honest, I'm leaning Rangers for sure. I'm with you, but I'm going to take the under. It's probably going to be 5.5. If you get it at 6, jump all over it, but I doubt it after that first game. It's most likely going to be 5.5. I'm feeling the under. And Steele, if you want me to just keep rolling, pal,
keep it going.
I'll hit you with my second bet, which is, again, it didn't work out for me last night, but it almost did. And I'm going to go back to a parlay, and I'm going to parlay in the same game. Give me the Calgary Flames on the money line and give me the over. I believe it'll probably be 6.5. It's not going to go as high as 7 because this is still the playoffs. I'm loving this spot again for the Calgary Flames. And you know McDavid and Draisaitl are going to get theirs. That was made clear as well. So I could see this being a 5-2, maybe even 5-3, something like that. Not as crazy as the first game. I think that's a very safe assumption to make. But give me the Edmonton Oilers Calgary Flames over. Whatever the number is, we record early, and my lock of the night is the Calgary Flames on the money line steal. They looked too good the other night.
Yeah, and that's exactly where I'm going with my second pick. I've also got the Flames on the money line, and I will be parlaying that with an anytime assist from Johnny Gaudreau because he's just an absolute beast out there. He finds his teammates. He really does take a lot of the load and just like he helps his line mate, his teammates out so much. Yeah. His vision and his quickness and to be able to do that with his size. I know there's a lot of guys out there who are on this, like, Mitch Marner, Braden Point, Johnny Gaudreau, the smaller guys in the league, but they're so much, they're so talented that they make a huge difference. And he was a big difference. And he's one of the reasons that got Matthew Tkachuk finally going and on the score sheet. So anytime assist from Johnny Gaudreau, that is my lock of the night.
Absolutely love it, pal. I like that we're mixing in these parlays too, because honestly, there's not too much more going on, right? Like we don't have 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 or more games. We got to go back to the same well. But hey, other than our shortness on a couple of locks of the night, it's been a good run for us, Steele. We're bouncing back tonight, baby. I'm feeling it. I got the Friday feeling. Happy long weekend to all of our Canadian friends, especially out east, and enjoy these Friday games, people.
Yeah, right. Confidence going into the weekend is key, and that's exactly what Flip and I have going for us. Even with a tough loss from the Rangers the other night, we still have the confidence because, look, Flip and I, mostly Flip, has been red hot this entire season with the picks. I've been hitting it with the DFS selections. It just makes the chemistry so much better.
Synergy, baby.
We're killing it right now. We're hoping that we're helping you out with the big time bets. And we just want to thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. But for your second listen, you have to check out the Locked On NHL Podcast. from the first round matchups to each Stanley Cup kiss. Locked On NHL covers the playoffs like no other. Hear the latest news and opinions from local experts every Monday through Friday. And you can find this podcast every single time, Monday through Friday as well. It's free and available wherever you get your podcast, which also includes YouTube. So again, hit the subscribe, hit the follow button. You don't want to miss out. And once you hit the buttons, you'll get the latest episodes of the podcast every single day, Monday through Friday. Thank you again for tuning in for today's episode with Flip and I. Have a great day. Good luck with all your bets out there. And we shall see you back here again on Monday.
Peace.